The training facility orbited Kepler 186f, a planet known for its unpredictable weather patterns and dangerous terrain. It was here that the Galactic Alliance trained elite soldiers from across 100 different species. The humans had just completed their third consecutive survival drill without a single casualty, an unprecedented achievement that left the instructors stunned. Instructor Velshak, a towering Vorith with skin like burnished steel, called the human unit together. Around him stood representatives from a dozen other species, all eager to understand how these fragile Deathworlders had accomplished what others could not. The humans stood at attention, their posture relaxed despite their recent ordeal. "You have achieved something remarkable," Velshak announced, his voice reverberating through the chamber. 3 perfect survival exercises. No injuries. Perfect resource management. Perfect teamwork. Yet I notice none of you celebrate. None of you boast of your accomplishment. Why? Sergeant Marcus Webb, the unit leader, exchanged a glance with his team before stepping forward. His weathered face bore the marks of someone who had seen more danger than most beings ever would. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "Sir, we don't brag about survival because survival isn't something you brag about," Webb said. "It's something you respect." A Zephyrian instructor, her gaseous form swirling with confusion, interjected. "But surely announcing your success builds morale? It shows your capability?" "It does the opposite," said Corporal Elena Rodriguez, stepping forward beside Webb. "Where I come from, we have a saying, don't tempt luck. The moment you start bragging about how well you survived, the moment you think you've figured out the secret to staying alive, that's when the universe reminds you that you haven't." The instructors fell silent. This seemed like superstition, yet the humans' track record suggested otherwise. Webb continued, his eyes scanning the assembled aliens. "We've learned something that most species take a long time to understand. On Earth, we spent millions of years in an environment that actively tried to kill us. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, starvation, the planet didn't care how smart we were or how well we planned. But the ones who survived weren't the ones who got cocky. They were the ones who stayed humble. Who assumed the next day would be worse than the last. Who treated every survival as a gift, not a guarantee." Instructor Tomek, a crystalline being whose thoughts seemed to resonate visibly through his translucent form, leaned forward. "You're suggesting that humility is a survival strategy?" "Not just a strategy," said Private James Liu, the youngest member of the team. "It's a survival requirement. My great-grandfather used to tell me that the graveyard is full of people who thought they were invincible. The survivors are the ones who knew they weren't." Another human, Sergeant Aisha Okonkwo, added quietly, "When you brag about survival, you're not just making a statement. You're making a promise to the universe that you won't need luck anymore." "And the universe?" "The universe has a sense of humor." The instructors exchanged confused glances, but their biomonitors confirmed something extraordinary: the human heart rates remained calm. Their stress levels were minimal. Yet they weren't displaying the overconfidence that typically followed success. Instead, they seemed almost watchful. Anticipatory. Velshak studied Webb with renewed interest. "So you're telling me that your survival comes not from superior tactics or physical ability, but from psychological discipline? From refusing to acknowledge your own success?" "No, sir," Webb corrected respectfully. "We acknowledge our success privately. We analyze what worked. We prepare for what didn't. But we don't announce it. We don't celebrate it publicly. Because the moment you think you've got survival figured out, that's when you stop paying attention. And in a death world, the moment you stop paying attention is the moment you die." Elena nodded solemnly. "We've seen it happen. People graduate from survival training thinking they're invincible. 6 months later, they're gone. Not because they weren't skilled, but because they forgot that survival isn't about being the best. It's about respecting that there's always something bigger, meaner, or crueler waiting around the corner." The instructors began to understand. The humans' quiet demeanor wasn't modesty, it was tactical. It was the hardened wisdom of a species that had learned not through theory but through millions of years of brutal, unforgiving reality. Velshak nodded slowly. You treat survival as a reprieve, not a victory. Exactly, Webb said. We thank the powers that be for today, prepare for tomorrow, and never, never, tempt luck by thinking we've earned the right to stop fighting. That evening, the human unit remained the only one conducting additional training. While other species celebrated their victory, the humans were rechecking equipment, reviewing protocols, and studying new terrain data. And when they completed their fourth exercise with similar perfection, they still didn't celebrate. They simply cleaned their equipment, checked the forecast, and prepared for the next day. The instructors were beginning to understand why humans, despite their fragile biology, had survived to reach the stars. It wasn't because they were the strongest or the fastest. It was because they understood something fundamental about survival that took most civilizations millennia to learn. The moment you stop being afraid is the moment you should be most afraid.